This is an extraordinary time to be working on education in our country. It is a historic, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We have a huge economic crisis. We're all living with that. I've been arguing pretty vociferously. We have an education crisis. We have to get dramatically better. And I'm absolutely convinced that fundamentally we have to educate our way to a better economy. That's the only way we're going to get there, is to do a better job for our children. So we have some huge challenges, but we have a huge opportunity. And again, I think this is absolutely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And let me take a minute to explain why. You have what I call the Barack effect. You have the president, the first lady, the vice president, his wife. You have leadership from the top that care passionately about this. And as Chancellor Klein said, are willing to put their resources, their reputation on the line to challenge the status quo and get dramatically better. The president, the first lady, that neither one of them were born with silver spoons in their mouths. Right. They both came from very humble backgrounds, and they are the leaders of the free world today because they received great educations, and they had great teachers, and they worked extraordinarily hard. And for the first time in a long time, every child can look at them and say, not just I want to be the president, but that I want to be smart like the president. And never has it been so cool. Never has it been so cool to be the president. I'm in classrooms every week, and you go talk to a third grader, fourth grader, fifth grader. Children of color have never had someone in the White House they can look to. And don't for a second underestimate the power of that motivation and that power of the inspiration. We have to capture that. We have to keep our children moving. Secondly, you have a Congress that is really committed, again, on a bipartisan basis. There isn't one person who thinks as a country we are where we need to be. Lots of progress, lots of signs of momentum, lots of hope, but we all know we have to get dramatically better. Right. We have more proven strategies, things that are working here in New York City and around the country. I can take you to the toughest inner city neighborhoods, take you to the most desolate rural place. You find great teachers, you find great principals. Miracles are happening for children. And so we know much better today, much more so than 10 or 15 years ago, what is possible and what can work. This isn't theoretical. It's actually happening in communities around the country. And our challenge and opportunity is to scale up what works. And then lastly, and not insignificantly, we have some real money to work with, some real money. $100 billion going into education. Think about that. It's a staggering investment. And I'm so thankful to the President and to Congress for, again, not just talking about education, but putting $100 billion on the line to try and get dramatically better. It's a comprehensive agenda, $5 billion for early childhood education. I think many of us in the room would argue that might be the best investment we can make, that if we get our 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds ready to learn and ready to read, and they hit kindergarten with their literacy skills intact and their socialization skills intact, they can do lots of things. When our children go to kindergarten and they have not been read to, when they don't know the front of the book from the back of a book, it is very, very tough for that kindergarten teacher to work with that wide disparity of ability level coming in. So a huge investment in increasing the number of seats available on the early childhood side, but also the quality. This can't be glorified babysitting. This has to be really strong work, not just watching TV, so our children hit kindergarten ready to learn and ready to read. Secondly, well north of $50 billion for K-12 education. And a couple key goals. We were worried about as many as 600,000 teaching jobs being lost in our country. That would be absolutely devastating. And the best thing we can do for our economy is to keep our teachers teaching and to keep our children learning. And imagine if class size would have gone from 25 to 45. And imagine if we laid off all of our librarians and social workers and counselors, what that would do. So we have an opportunity now to save literally hundreds of thousands of teaching jobs around the country, K-12 as well as higher ed, and it's so important we do that. Unprecedented resources coming in on Title I money for poor children, IDA money for children with disabilities. I'm going to talk about how we should use that money in a minute. But again, extraordinary investment in not just the status quo, but in getting dramatically better. And then on the higher education side, and we know today there are no good jobs out there for high school dropouts. There are virtually no good jobs out there for folks who just graduate from high school, that we have to have dramatically more, not just go to college, but stay. Over $30 billion to increase access and opportunity to higher education. And at a time when going to college has never been more expensive, it's also never been more important. And as you all know so well, families have never been under more financial duress. So whether it's dramatically increasing Pell Grants, whether it's increasing Perkins loans, whether it's a tuition tax credit for middle-class families, we want to make sure that children who are working hard and trying to do the right thing can have the chance, have the opportunity to go to college and aren't scared off because their mother or father lost their job or because they took a huge pay cut. So again, comprehensive agenda, early childhood all the way through higher ed, 0 to 20, however you want to look at it, huge, huge opportunity. But let me be really clear, in exchange for unprecedented resources, we are asking for unprecedented reform. It's simply investing in the status quo is not going to get us where we need to go. We as a country have lost our way educationally. Our children have to compete with children not down the block or in the district, but with children in India and China. And so we have to dramatically raise the bar. We have sort of flatlined as a country. We have stagnated, and other countries have just passed us by. The president has drawn a line in the sand, said we have to dramatically increase the number of young folks graduating from college by the year 2020. To do that every single year, we have to take significant steps in the right direction. I want to talk a little bit about that reform agenda and what we need to do collectively to get better. I think over the past few years, under No Child Left Behind, some great things happened. A spotlight was shown on the achievement gap. All the hard work that you guys talk about, forevermore, that achievement gap cannot be swept under the rug. And we're going to continue to focus on disaggregating data and looking at how African American and Latino children are doing. And are we doing enough for them? And we are all here today because we know we're not. However, one of the downsides of No Child Left Behind is 50 states set their own standards. 50 states did their own thing. And due to political pressure, that led to a dumbing down, a race to what we call the bottom. And we have to reverse that. And so many folks up here have stood up and said, we need to have common, college-ready, career-ready, internationally benchmarked standards. But no longer can 50 states do the wrong thing, because when that happens, guess what? We are lying to children. And what breaks my heart is when we tell a child and we tell a family that you are, quote-unquote, meeting standards, the rational, the logical a thought behind that, a parent would think their child's okay, their child's on track to do well. But in far too many places, when we tell a child they are meeting standards, they are in fact barely prepared to graduate from high school, and they are totally inadequately prepared to go to college, let alone graduate. And so we have to start to tell the truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We have to significantly raise our standards and have our students competing against that. Secondly, we have to keep track of our data. We have to understand the facts. We can't be scared of the facts. And data doesn't tell you anything, but I think it gets you in the ball game. So we have to understand, we have to be able to tell a 5th and a 6th grader or 7th grader what their strengths and weaknesses are. And are they on track to be successful to graduate from high school and go to college, or are they not? And we have to be able to track them through their entire educational trajectory. In too many places, we don't know how our students are doing. We don't know how much they're learning each year. We have some schools, some classrooms where students are gaining 2 years of instruction, 2 years of growth for 1 year of teaching. Those teachers are doing extraordinary jobs, Herculean jobs in very, very tough situations. You have other classrooms, you have other schools where students are gaining half a year for a year's instruction. And when that happens, children fall further and further behind. And so we have to find ways to be honest about the data, to really collect it, to reward excellence, where things aren't working, to really challenge that status quo. In our business, in education, talent matters tremendously. Great teachers, great principals make a huge, huge difference in our students' lives. And again, the toughest communities in New York City, Chicago, where I come from, all over the country, where poverty rates are 99 and 100%, you still have high schools where 98% of students are graduating. You still have high schools where 95% of those graduates are going to college. And you have other schools 4, 5, 6 blocks away, same children, same socioeconomic challenges, where the dropout rate is 50%. We are producing students who have no chance to be successful. And so how we collectively think about talent, how do we recruit the best and brightest to become teachers and to become principals? How do we develop career ladders and mentoring programs, induction programs to keep them in the teaching profession? I worry a lot about great teachers we lose early in the profession because we don't listen to them, because they don't feel supported, because they don't have the classroom management skills they need. And then very significantly, I think none of us do this well enough. We're all trying. How do we get the best and brightest to take on the toughest of assignments? How do we get the best and brightest to go to those inner city communities that have been historically underserved, those rural communities who have been underserved for decades? And how we get the right match between the children who need the most help, the children who come in the furthest behind, and the best talents who do these extraordinary things. We all have to become much more creative in thinking about that.